Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about the AMC accumulation zones, how we have the best opportunities, the banks recalling loans, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. AMC is going bankrupt. You've said this for 5+ years. How did this sound? Institutions continue to buy more AMC because they know it's going bankrupt. There's no retail fear, keep selling fake shares, accumulation zone, nothing more. And so I think this pretty much sums up everything we have talked about and is a very clear explanation of what's going on. When you take a look at the institutional ownership, what you will see is how institutions have been buying AMC, especially now they've seen how well AMC is doing and just how big of a potential AMC is. We talked about how AMC is very likely to show us 1,000x returns, 2,000x, and even higher returns, even when we look at everything that's going on. And at the very minimum, we're looking at 100x return just if we are able to see real price discovery when we understand the fundamentals and the sentiment of AMC. And so it's not only retail who sees this now, it's obviously institutions as well. But they've always tried to push retail off of AMC. And you can see, if you saw a title that was as ridiculous as this, you'll realize what's going on. But it is basically what they are saying. We're seeing titles that are saying AMC is going bankrupt, so you shouldn't buy. However, when you take a look at what the institutions are doing, they're doing the very opposite. And so you could say it is that institutions continue to buy more AMC because they know it's going bankrupt. And then you ask yourself, is that really the case? Are they buying AMC because they know it's going bankrupt and they're going to lose all of their investment? Of course not. They're buying into AMC because they realize they're able to get such a good multiple on their returns on their investment, and that's why they've been continuously buying AMC. And so this is something that the retailers have always known. If you're obviously new to this and you're being persuaded by the articles, you're seeing what these FUD are saying, make sure you understand what is actually going on. Make sure you understand that your investment is based off of your own analysis and not because institutions are paying these media articles to try and get you to sell. And then you can see this. I'm buying more AMC shares because the price is way too good to be true. In fact, if the price is not true, but the market makers are willing to give me shares in my account for $2.87 per share. Buying more AMC shares and never selling any of my shares ever. Now, what we just said earlier was talking about how institutions have been trying to accumulate as much AMC as possible. But what we're seeing now is something that has obviously been true for the last 5 years. How apes have been continuously buying into AMC. So we've always seen, news of institutions trying to accumulate as many shares as possible for, the last few months, last few quarters, pretty much for the last few years, as well as apes. But the difference is apes have done this without any hesitance. Ape have always known what was going on. We have always bought into these shares because we realized that this is the best discount that we can get. It's the best opportunity that we can get. When you compare AMC to its peers, like we talked about, such firms such as IMAX, such as Cinemark, you see how they are operating and you see where they're worth. And then when you take a look at AMC, the biggest company within the industry, yet nowhere near the price as them, whether we're looking at share price or more importantly, the market cap, we're obviously not the same. And so we already know from there that the market opportunity is, hidden there. We know that the investment opportunities for AMC is so great. And then we also realize that if at one point we are able to get to see real price discovery, we're able to see trade settlements on AMC. And this is very important because if we are able to see it on AMC, then you mix that in with the sentiment, you mix that in with all the other new capital that's going to flow into AMC, you realize where AMC is going to go. I can guarantee you now, at least in my personal opinion, if AMC was suddenly to shoot up to $50 within today, within the next trading day, then it's not going to be a case of everybody start taking profit, everybody start selling. But rather, if we're able to see AMC go to $50, we're going to see more and more people actually buying in because they realize finally we are able to see the real price discovery of AMC. And so the short to know that as well, that's why they're so afraid to even let AMC see real price discovery, because they understand even if AMC were to go to $200, it won't see most people selling. Yes, some people will take profit, but what it's actually going to do is that the apes who have been holding will continue to hold and actually buy more, and then the other ones who have been sitting on the sidelines will also buy more shares of AMC as well. You can see this from Diatech as well, adding more AMC. Thanks for the cheapies, more fake shares sold to me at 287. Couldn't resist knowing I hold these shares to 5,000 XROI or more at a minimum. And now this is something that we've just been saying, but you can see from multiple different users from multiple different apes, the consensus has always been the same. We realized that firstly, the shares that we are buying are fake shares. Now that doesn't harm us in any way. If anything, it's only forcing the shorts to dry up their liquidity more and obviously make them pay back even more when they have to buy it back. But secondly, it's about knowing how apes all realize that this is a golden opportunity. And institutions are seeing this as well right now, hence why we've been seeing the institution accumulation. But then from this, you can just really see how strong the ape community is, how strong and how much people are willing to obviously buy into AMC and hold on to AMC. And so it's why we've never given up. It's why these shorts have never won and will never win. And that's why they've been trapped in this play for the last 4 or 5 years. Because they thought apes would sell easily, but we have obviously held on and are making a very, very good fight. And if anything, we have actually been winning recently, especially seeing how much liquidity is drying up from the short. And then you can see in the desperation, almost 70% of AMC volume is now being routed off exchange in dark pools to control and suppress the price. And so one of the biggest factors we know is that how these institutions obviously use dark pool. And from here, we can see 69% added on the SIBO 4% and the rest, we're over 70% in dark pool usage. That itself is essentially just showing the desperation. That itself is just highlighting how much they're suppressing AMC, but more importantly, how they need to suppress AMC. Remember, if they weren't trapped in this play, if there weren't billions and billions and billions and potentially trillions of dollars at stake here, they wouldn't feel the need to spend so much money every single day to create synthetics, to use the dark pool AMC, right? They wouldn't be doing all of this. When you take a look at the average dark pool usage on the market, it's 34%. We are at 70%. We are double that of average usage on the dark pool. And so that itself should already show you something. And then when you account for the tokens, when you account for the FTDs, the swaps, it then takes it to a whole new level. And it's why we've talked about. And so you understand why, we always have been fighting against these short sellers and why we know where we are and what we invest in. And you can see this, and it's why we talked about the fundamentals in the past before. If they don't exit the short positions before Tesla reaches autonomy at scale, they will be obliterated. Now, we've talked about this briefly in the past, and it's why we've said recently how AMC has been doing is exactly why it's been attracting investors. We talked about here about institutions are buying into AMC, and that's because they realize this. You can see everyone knows that when a company obviously reaches to a state where its fundamentals is doing so well, there is no short thesis on this stock. You can see Elon Musk will obliterate short sellers. It will be true game over. It's inevitable. It is coming. But essentially, it's about understanding how you can see how Elon Musk is saying this about Tesla, but the same applies for AMC as well. And with the recent fundamentals, with the recent earnings, it just pretty much highlights that. It just shows how well AMC is doing right now, but more importantly, how well AMC is going to do in the future. And so from here point out, essentially what we can look at is how it's a countdown against these short sellers, how we are looking at AMC reaching towards that state, the state where pretty much no one should be shorting AMC unless you're trapped with billions of synthetics. And we're reaching a point where the only capital you'll be seeing for AMC will be people buying into AMC. And then when it comes to that point, the institutions who have, who are going to invest billions of dollars would want to see AMC have real price discovery. And so that's when we'll see institutions and regulations even stepping in, because as we've seen in the past, regulations only want to help out institutions and not retail. And so if for AMC, it comes to a point where there are more institutions involved in the long side of AMC and they want a fairer market, they want less dark pool, and they bring up to the regulation, we may actually see that coming. And then when that point starts, that's when we'll see, all these short sellers get squeezed. And then you can see here, big bank sees $82 million in company shares that CEO puts up as collateral for loans. Now, this doesn't have anything direct to do with AMC, but the important thing about this is about showing how we can see that banks have the ability to seize collaterals, to recall collaterals. And that's what we talked about with why Citigroup is worried, why Citadel is worried with Bank of America, because of how much loan has been lent out, and more importantly, how much they're starting to lose. And that's why we said these short sellers are seeing the clock ticking down now. But yeah, guys, that's it for this video. As always, this is financial advice. Do take a grain of salt. Make sure to do your own due diligence and research. And I'll catch you guys next time.